This video is how to create product photos using a camera phone and the Snapseed app, which is a free app for photo editing. So you're going to need a piece of tracing paper, a board that's covered in a piece of kitchen foil, and these two together are going to be your background. You'll also want to make yourself a foil reflector. This is just kitchen foil that's been wrapped over an old cardboard box. They're very useful for adding some extra light into images, and I would highly recommend you make a few so you can use more than one. They're very easy to make, very quick and very useful. The other thing that is quite important is your tripod. I use a tripod because it's incredibly hard to hold a camera phone steady enough to take a good image of a jewellery or anything that's stationary. You will often find that you get blurry images if you don't have your phone either propped up with something or actually on a tripod. What you can see here is a Gorilla Pod that I purchased second-hand. It wasn't hugely expensive. This type of small tripod is perfect for this sort of photography. So the final piece of my setup is this small stool that I'm using to shoot on. This is simply a cheap IKEA stool. I also use it for decorating, so therefore it's not particularly clean, but it's perfect for this sort of quick shot. I can just grab my tripod. The tripod sits on the step. The jewellery gets set up on the seat of the stool, and it means I'm shooting at a very shallow angle, but which is perfect for earrings or bracelets. If you're looking to shoot down on a necklace or a pendant, you might need a slightly different setup, but you should be able to adapt this idea to work for any piece that you are trying to shoot. So having now seen the setup, what I want to talk about is how important the reflectors are. This short bit of video shows you the difference you can make by simply pushing a bit of extra reflection onto the jewellery. You can lighten areas and brighten everything up. This is just a short piece of close-up video just so you can see clearly how the reflector is making a big difference to how much light is reflecting off the jewellery. Here's the shot I achieved from the setup that you've just seen. I've put this quick shot in to show side by side what happens when you don't use the reflector. The image that you can see in set on the left is without reflection, the image on the right is with reflection. I've swapped over to my iPhone and I am going to talk about an app called Snapseed. You can see it here if I circle my little pointer. I do have Photoshop, which is this one in the middle, but today I'm going to talk you through Snapseed because Snapseed is a photo editing app that is free of charge and available on both iPhones and Android. And we are going to go into Snapseed. The first thing we want to do is find the photo that we are going to process. I'm going to use the one that I've been showing in this video. So I've now selected my photo. I didn't show that process because I have a lot of personal photos in my album, but once I had pressed the button, I could just go through my albums and select the photo that I'm after. So this is the photo that I took with that very simple setup that I've already showed you. And it's not perfect because there's way too much space around it. You can't particularly see the jewellery at the moment. And if I want to make this a photo for me to promote my pieces or even to put up on a shop like Etsy to be able to sell them, we need to do a little bit of work. I'm not going to do anything major. I'm just going to take you through a couple of very simple, quick steps that mean you can get your photos looking great and get them up and working for you very quickly. So the first thing that Snapseed does is drop you into the looks panel. So if I hover my little pointer here, you'll see it's this one down on the left. This is not of much use to you if you're doing photos for that need to be realistic, that are for you to sell anything. This I think of as being for our lovely young people who want to sort of add filters to their pictures, because you can, and it just makes them look a little bit more exciting. So we're actually going to ignore that, and we're going to move over to this middle one called Tools. There is a lot in here, and you don't particularly need all of them. So in fact, it's this top level that are the most important ones for us, plus crop and healing. Those are the ones I am going to talk about, because those are the ones that I would choose to use to just do some very simple quick edits on my phone. So the first one I'm going to do, and this is a personal preference of mine, is to actually crop. So I'm up by crop. I'm just going to click on the crop. Now it has defaulted onto square because that's what I use all the time. So it's saved my preferences. When you first come in, most likely it's going to be on the far left one down here, that's called free. All that means is when you come up here and you start moving this box around, it doesn't have any fixed sides, so it allows you to make the crop whatever you want it to be. So I am going to keep it as the square, and I am going to frame my jewellery. I'm not going to crop in too close. I'm going to leave a little bit of space around the outside for now. I can come and crop later if I really want to crop in closer. But I just want to crop out the majority of the background that I don't want, so I can work on the bit that I do want. So I'm happy with that. I'm coming down here to the tick, and I am ticking the tick. So there is a decent crop. I can use 2 fingers on my screen to actually go in a little bit closer just to check that the photo is sharp and that I'm happy with it, and I am. So I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to go back into Tools, and I'm going to come up to White Balance. I shot this with a standard overhead light that is a daylight bulb, but it's not 100% accurate. So just to have a look at the daylight settings, I'm coming down to this little pipette thing, and I'm going to click on that, and that gives me a kind of focusing ring that I can move around the photo. And if I move slowly, you can see how the colour is changing slightly. If you hover over here, you'll see how it changes dramatically. So it shows you that it's doing something. But I just want to keep hovering it until I find something that I feel is looking pretty accurate to what the actual photo should be. Let's settle it there, and let's come back down to here and click the tick. If you want to see the original photo at any point, just put your finger on the screen and press, and it will automatically flick back to the original photo. So we're coming back to Tools. So the next one we're going to look at is Tune Image. So I'm going to press on Tune Image, and it brings up this screen. If we come down here, you've got a little 3-bar menu, and if I tap on that, this is what it shows. Brightness is the first option, and that's the first one we're going to look at. This works by you scrolling with your finger on the screen up and down to select the one you want. Finger on the screen and you push to the right to get extra brightness, or you scroll to the left to dull the image off. That's the same to change your settings. To go to the plus side on any of them is to the right, and to go to the negative side is to the left. So as you can see, you get you can actually change it quite a lot, and if you want to keep going up, you can, if you hit the side of your phone, you just lift your finger up, put it back down on the screen and keep pushing right to the right. So that at 100% is far too much. I want to bring it up a little bit because it certainly was a bit dark. I'm going to stop at 70%. You'll see up here, if you watch the top of the screen, you'll have a little bar that's going up and down, but you've also got this number that it's showing you. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm going to tap on the screen down at the bottom where these 3 little bars are again to bring up the menu. going to put my finger on the screen and push it up to contrast. I've said in a other video that I did about photo editing, and this is something that I do. If I change the brightness on a photo, I often will change the contrast as well, because contrast helps to rebalance the photo when you're increasing the brightness. So we are going to have a look at the contrast. I know I'm in contrast because if I go up here, it's telling me so. So finger on the screen again, and I'm just going to push slightly to the right. All the way either way shows us the extremes of what this does. But with contrast, I'm just wanting to bring it up a little bit. I just want to intensify those colours. I can zoom in to see that I'm not messing too much with my image. The zoom in I've just done with putting 2 fingers on the screen and expanding. My understanding is that works on Android as well as iPhones. I'm pretty happy with that. That's brought back a little bit of the contrast. And I'm going to use my finger, slide up to highlights. Highlights is one that I use sometimes. Sometimes I don't feel it's needed. It depends on the piece that you're actually trying to modify. So again, my finger's on the screen and I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it all the way up just so you can see the extreme. Sometimes pushing highlights all the way up to 100% does work. It's kind of working reasonably for this one. If you push it all the way down, you'll see that it's taking all the highlights out. So pushing it up, the thing that highlights does sometimes, and it's worked for this particular image, is if you look at all this background, which you could see had some different textures to it, it's taking that out a bit, and that's fine by me for this particular shot. It actually helps it a little bit. So I'm going to leave highlights at 35. I'm now going to come back and have a look at the shadows. Shadows works the other way. If you push highlights into the plus side of the bar, you often want to knock the shadows the opposite way, just to again bring that balance back in. That seems to be working. They look very similar to how they actually do in real life, which is great. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. So I'm happy with that. I'm just going to come in and check the shadows. So I've got shadows, and this is nice, but this is a menu. It's actually showing me what I'm doing. So I've got shadows at -20, got highlights at +35, my contrast is up by 15, and brightness is up by 70. That's absolutely fine. So let's tap out of that menu. I've just tapped on the screen to get rid of that. And I'm going to hit the tick. That takes me back to this screen, and that's saved that. So let's come back into tools, because the last one that I want to talk about is this one called healing. So if I tap on that, healing has no options down at the bottom apart from these 2 little arrows, which once you've made a change on this photo in this setting, you have this one to go back, and you have this one as in step backwards, and you have this one to step forwards if you stepped back too far. So with this, all you want to do is come up onto your picture, and you want to put your finger on the point on the picture where you want to make a change. And healing means this is going to change the photo. So I want to take that top bit out. So I'm just brushing my finger across that bit, and that has healed it. And what healing means, and spot healing is something that people who are familiar with Photoshop will understand, is what you are telling the program to do is to look at what background is around the bit that you've just swiped over and to match it. So I'm going to go back in and just do that once more, because there's a little bit of an uneven bit just sitting there. So if I do it again, that's matched it back up. And if we come down here, if you look here, you can still see a few little variations. So there's kind of a little light point going on here, because there's a little line here and there's a little bit over here. So I can take those out by either swiping or just dotting. If you've got a speck of dust that's really annoying you, or a little hair that's showing up on the photo, you can come in and you can either just dot your finger or swipe with your finger to actually get rid of those little bits. I would, just to show you the extreme of what this is actually doing, if you swipe over the item, that's what you're going to get. So that gives you an idea. We're going to come down here and use the back button to get rid of that, but that gives you an idea of the extremes of spot healing. That's all I'm going to do. The main thing for me was taking that background out from the top of the photo that I really didn't want to see. So we're now going to come over, we've got the little tick, and now I think zooming back into the photo, they're looking pretty good. If we do that, return to preview, you can see how extreme it looks in terms of the difference from where we started. But that is a very good product image for me to display this pair of earrings in a shop, online, or on my social media feed. And I haven't done anything that's actually fake in terms of changing the actual item. If you saw the earrings in real life, they look very similar to this photo. So this is a true representation of what those earrings do look like. So the final thing we're going to do is come down to export, click export, and it brings up the different options you have. I'm a fan of export, so that's the one I'm going to use. And it's saying it's successfully exported, and now when I go into my iPhone photo album, it's going to be in there.